With over 140 million monthly users and a massive competitive circuit, Riot Games' MOBA League of Legends is a titan in competitive gaming. From an augmented reality dragon flying through an arena, to collaborations with world-renowned musicians at World Championships, League of Legends is ubiquitous with what esports is today. So when Riot revealed that they were making a mobile version of their game, many thought it could be the next big thing. But after just 1 year, Riot pulled the plug on what is now considered the biggest flop in the company's history. Here's what happened to Wild Rift. Throughout the 2010s, Riot Games built a global empire with League of Legends. They were the most viewed game on Twitch, were hosting the largest esports events in the world, and, looking to capitalize, they made the decision to start branching out. During their 10th year anniversary stream, Riot Games announced plans to expand beyond League of Legends, hoping to break into fighting games, card games, first-person shooters, and mobile games. Enter Wild Rift, a handheld version of League of Legends which was meant to appeal to a more casual audience. Their kits had less complex abilities, the objectives were simplified, and the games lasted only 10 to 12 minutes, significantly less than the 30 to 40 minute average of a standard League of Legends game. In theory, making the game more accessible was a great way to reach a new player base, and general sentiment was that it could be a good way to introduce League of Legends to new people. So, when Wild Rift released on October 27th, 2020, hopes were very high. In terms of viewership, Wild Rift was an immediate success. Its cinematic trailer, You Got Me, amassed more than 71 million views on YouTube, and the Wild Rift Invitational at Twitch Rivals in 2020 had a peak viewership of 130,000, a number that stood head and shoulders above other mobile games at the time, like Call of Duty Mobile, Clash of Clans, and Vainglory. With such a wide casual fanbase, and Riot Games' experience running tournaments for a Tier 1 esport, it made sense for them to actively pursue an esports scene for Wild Rift. And after a decent initial showing at the Horizon Cup, 2022 was the year Riot Games intended to make Wild Rift Esports a household name. Their plan? To produce one of the biggest mobile game esports events the world had ever seen. The Wild Rift Icons Global Championship comprised 8 different regional leagues, representing Japan, North America, China, South Korea, EMEA, Brazil, and Southeast Asia. Through qualifying events around the globe, 24 teams would be selected and travel to Singapore to compete at the Icons Global Championship. With a who's who of commentators and analysts, and organizations like Sentinels, Nova Esports, FunPlus Phoenix, and Keed Stars, the stage was set for a record-breaking event. And, in classic Riot Games fashion, they produced this trailer to get everyone hyped for it. To top it all off, the event had a prize pool of $2 million, ensuring that every team would be on their A game. So, the event kicked off on June 14th, 2022, and many expected the game to shatter viewership numbers, and it did, in the wrong direction. According to Yahoo News, the first day of the knockout stage only had around 10,000 viewers. Compare that to the League of Legends World Championship, or even your average streamer on a Tuesday evening, and the numbers are laughable. But that's not all. Esports Charts published an article highlighting the viewership for Icons, and showed that the very first day of Icons saw a peak viewership of 53.9 thousand viewers before dropping to 30.8 thousand by the end of the play-in stage, a drop of almost 30%. To put things into perspective, the Icons Global Championship never eclipsed the peak viewership of the Horizon Cup earlier in 2021, which was a significantly smaller tournament. The event went so poorly that afterwards, Riot Games pulled the plug on Wild Rift Esports in Western regions and placed sole focus on China and Southeast Asia. According to a blog post, quote, "In 2023, we will centralize the operation and focus of Wild Rift Esports in Asia, the biggest and most active mobile sports market in the world. The new Wild Rift League in Asia will be the first Riot cross-regional professional mobile esports league and will replace the original Wild Rift Esports in April of 2023. So, what went wrong? Western viewers might think, of course the tournament failed. No one watches mobile games. But in regions like Southeast Asia, that couldn't be farther from the truth. In 2022, there were 2 other games that Wild Rift was competing with. The first was Arena of Valor. They hosted their 2022 International Championship, a tournament that also featured $2 million, and their average viewership was 200,000, more than 3 times Wild Rift's peak viewership. A big reason for this success was that the tournament was streamed on Facebook. According to Steam charts, half of the top 10 games on Facebook streaming are mobile games, and 4 of those games ranked in the top 5 most viewed games on the platform in 2022. Icons, for whatever reason, did not stream on Facebook, meaning they missed out on a huge viewership opportunity. But while Arena of Valor was pulling 200,000 viewers for their largest event of the year, that was peanuts compared to another game in Asia, one that routinely pulled more than 2 million viewers for tournaments that weren't even their world championship, eclipsing that of even the League of Legends World Championships that year. The game? Mobile Legends Bang Bang. Essentially a League of Legends clone, MLBB had a 4-year head start on Wild Rift and quickly established itself as the single most popular mobile game in the world. By the end of 2020, Mobile Legends averaged a monthly player base of over 70 million users, with more than 10 million playing every single day. In addition, Mobile Legends used the time between 2016 and 2020 to develop a grassroots esports scene primarily in the Southeast Asia region. Unlike Wild Rift, who immediately created icons shortly after the game's release, Mobile Legends waited 3 years to invest into the M Series, their official esports scene. Even without multi-million-dollar prize pools, the time spent developing a devout base of casual and competitive players was something Wild Rift could simply not compete with. As mobile MOBA expert, Xcoundrel explains, how do you convince a player that has spent 4 years of their life in a title like Mobile Legends to drop the game for another? The short answer is, you pretty much can't. This was a huge issue for Wild Rift. Even if it was a better product than Mobile Legends, and we're not saying it is, Riot also needed to convince Mobile Legends players who have invested 4 years playing, grinding, and spending money on skins to leave that all behind and try something else. Additionally, Wild Rift could not fully capture the League of Legends base, as many League players would rather stick to their PC counterpart due to the fact that it's a more fleshed out game. Wild Rift also struggled because mobile gaming isn't the global phenomenon we think it is. At least, not in Western countries. While mobile gaming has been growing around the world, Southeast Asia has been the main contributor to its success. So while Riot was focused on a global release, the region that they should have invested the most in was Southeast Asia. The last major issue with Wild Rift was its preemptive focus on esports. Instead of spending time to cater towards the existing casual base, they looked to market Wild Rift as the premier esport of mobile gaming, essentially starting construction on a sports stadium in an empty city. Still, Riot Games went all in with their plan to invest in esports and rushed their first year with icons, resulting in low viewership, thus resulting in it flopping outside of Asia. Without laying the groundwork to organically develop a player base, Riot set themselves up for failure from the start. In a blog post by Riot Games, the president of their esports division, John Needham, explained how they view the function of esports, saying, quote, "Riot generally does not use esports as a way to acquire new game players. Esports aren't an effective way to do so because in order to really enjoy the competition, a viewer needs to have a foundational knowledge of the game. So, by this logic, if the game is struggling for relevancy in the West and facing stiff competition for user acquisition regions, it doesn't make sense to continue pumping money into something that only caters to a niche audience." So, where are we now? Despite dropping support for the Western esports scene in late 2022 and focusing on Southeast Asia and China in 2023, viewership for the game never really jumped up. Peak viewership for the game was just 17,000, which came during the 32nd Southeast Asian Games. In April 2024, Riot announced that they would be dropping official support for the APAC region because of this low viewership, leaving China as the last bastion for Riot-sanctioned tournaments. Still, that bastion is holding out. According to a report from Pocket Gamer, in July 2022, Wild Rift generated $500 million in global revenue, with 72.6% of that revenue coming from China, suggesting that while the competitive scene isn't as big as games like MLBB, the casual scene is still incredibly active. So while Wild Rift may seem dead, there is some hope for it to bounce back in the future. Maybe Riot won't invest in multi-million-dollar tournaments again, but if we've seen anything over the years, it's that players are more than willing to support the games they love. Shout out and thanks to Cloud, Steph, B, Pass, Shampoo, and Yashichi for being top patrons of the channel. If you enjoyed the video, leaving a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell to stay up to date is much appreciated. My name is Jonah, thanks for watching.